If a man isn't willing to give you what you need, then stop giving him what he wants. I felt that was the perfect quote to start this off with, because I can't tell you how many times I've had women come to me, complain about certain issues with this man and what he's not doing. And in my head, I think, but why are you still with him? Like, why are you still providing benefits to this man who is unwilling to pour into you in the ways that you need, in the ways that you desire, in the ways that would allow you to be happy and fulfilled in this relationship? Now, I know why, because a lot of people are struggling with unhealthy attachments, which stems from a lack of healing, so on and so forth. We're not going to go down that path today. What I want to focus on is to just highlight the type of men that you need to stop dating, or the things that when men do them, stop staying and entertaining that guy, because it doesn't get better by essentially accepting this behavior. And when I say accepting, you could scream, kick, you could try to punish him by not having sex or whatever the case may be. But as long as you remain in that relationship, you are essentially telling him he is allowed to continue with this behavior. There is no true consequence to his actions, because your punishment is temporary to him. You're just having a moment. She's in one of those moods. She'll get over it. You know what I'm saying? That's literally how some men are thinking, because you're not actually leaving. So let's get into it. The first thing that you need to be mindful of is when a man is a horrible communicator. So again, as I said, I'll have posts, whether that be quotes or videos or whatever, talking about communication and how to talk to a man, and you need to talk to him and address the red flags and all these things. And women will come back at me saying, well, how can you talk to someone who doesn't want to talk to you? How can you talk to someone who shuts down on you? How can you talk to someone that's so disrespectful to you? And again, you at that point, you don't keep trying to talk to them. You leave them. All right, I'm sorry to laugh, but you leave them. Like, if you have made an honest attempt at rectifying the situation or trying to address the issue, you don't need to continue after that. Though I tell you in countless videos to address the red flags, I never say give the man a free pass on his nonsense. I don't say ignore the fact that he's unwilling to fix it. No, I say if he's not going to fix it, then you must walk away. So communication is something you have to hold to a high standard, because I can tell you this, there is no healthy, successful, long-term relationship that hasn't learned how to communicate with each other, or that doesn't involve two people who haven't learned how to communicate with each other. That is always a foundational piece to the success. So a man who is a horrible communicator, I understand and acknowledge that some men have not learned how to talk, that some men struggle with expressing themselves. I'm not knocking anyone for the struggle. I'm knocking them for their unwillingness to be better about it. Their unwillingness to work on it, all right? Their unwillingness to show you that they're making progress in their area so that you understand, okay, this is just something that he has to get better at, rather than he just refuses. And the refusal to do it, in many cases, is not even about he can't. It's a sign that he doesn't want to, because he's not serious enough about you in this relationship. So you have to be mindful of that. Again, if he can't talk to you, there is no point in carrying this on. Now, I have to stress, you have to make sure that you are doing your part in trying to communicate effectively. You cannot just expect someone to be open and transparent with you if you're not open and transparent with them. You cannot expect them to want to have conversations with you if the minute they open their mouth, you're jumping down their throat. You are making them feel judged. You are over talking them constantly. You're dismissing how they feel, because you know if they did that to you, it would piss you off. And you would have a really, really big problem with them. So do not do things you wouldn't like being done to you. And make sure you're learning how to express yourself in a calm, loving manner. And if that cannot be respected and honored, then yes, You need to let him go and not date that kind of a guy. All right, so the second thing that if a man does, that means you need to stop dating this type of a guy, is he won't spend any money on you. Now, if you've seen some of my other videos, then you may know where I stand on money, but let's refresh those, or let me bring many of you up to speed, okay? Now, let me make clear, I am not advocating for this man has to spoil you with money. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm saying that's not the standard I'm setting right now in this video, in this example, all right? So this isn't about that he needs to pay all the bills, even though I, again, support and believe in that. It's not what this is about. I'm specifically talking about he won't spend any money on you. Now, for some of you might say, that's crazy. There's no man that's not spending no money. Oh, yes, there is. There are plenty of scenarios, plenty of situations that I have dealt with through clients where the man is not coming out the pocket at all. Anytime a bill comes, it's excuses, it's splitting the bill, it's whatever, but it's not him paying for her, buying her something, whatever. And unfortunately, there's a lot of women who accept this because, one, you've either been convinced or convinced yourself that it's noble, all right, and shows that you're just a wonderful woman because you don't care about his money. But you're missing a deeper issue, a deeper point that's being made by his unwillingness to spend money on you. And that's the point that, let me paint this picture. You'll have situations where the man, again, when it comes to buying the woman anything, paying for stuff out of his pocket, he won't do it. The most he'll do is pay half of what his half is. That's it, right? So, and sometimes maybe let's say he's struggling. He claims he's doesn't have much money right now. He's going through a rough patch, whatever. Let's say months in, you go to his house one day and he got himself a new PlayStation, right? And you're like, well, wait a minute. How you get a play? You don't have no money. Oh yeah, I saved up or I did whatever and I was able to buy this PlayStation, right? Because I've always wanted it. What that shows you right there is his unwillingness to spend money on you, but he can buy the things that he wants, like a PlayStation, is because he sees value in the PlayStation and not in you. Now, again, I don't say that to hurt anyone's feelings that's going through it. However, this is the reality of it. And I want you to understand it, not from the perspective of now devaluing yourself or questioning your own self-worth, but an understanding that this man is either unwilling or not capable to see your actual value, or unwilling to pay the price of your value, so to speak, okay? And that just means he needs to go. But you see these types of things happen all the time. And that's why I'm bringing this up to say it's not just about the money. It's the why. Why is he unwilling? Listen, I've never come across a man who's really into a woman and is unwilling to spend any money on her. I've never seen it. He may be limited in what he can do because of his financial situation, but he has a willingness to. So when he is unwilling, that is a clear sign he's not serious. And if anything, he is using you. He is just trying to have you there for whatever benefits you provide. And he is minimizing his financial investment in this situation. But trust and believe, when he finds something that he wants to spend his money on, he will. He will. So the unwillingness to spend money is a very big deal. And you should not entertain any kind of man like that. All right, so let's move things along. And the third thing on this list, that if a man does, you need to stop dating this type of man, is ones who are disrespectful to you. Now, I know for some of you, it's like, oh, that's a no-brainer. We all know that, right? Again, it's not always that simple for a lot of people. Unfortunately, society is becoming more and more toxic to where I think on one end, there is a portion of society that's become more easily offended, but there's also a portion of society that lets things slide or is normalizing toxic behavior, okay? And so in normalizing a lot of toxic behavior, very disrespectful acts are being overlooked and made excuses for, okay? And so I think that when some people think disrespect, they're thinking different things. Disrespect to some might be how you talk to that person, all right? So how that man talks to you, if he calls you out your name. And for some people, here's the thing. If you come from an area where a man calling his woman the B word, right? That's my B, is acceptable. Well, that person won't see it as disrespect. Whereas someone else looks at that and be like, oh, hell no, there's no way I'm gonna let a man call me that. And it's gonna be a problem for her. And that's why you see so many differences in what is accepted or not. But I'm not gonna get into what I think should be disrespectful. I want to focus on what you know, what you feel is disrespectful to you, okay? Because your feelings do matter. And again, we all have different perceptions of what will qualify as disrespect. I think the one thing that we can all agree on is verbal and physical abuse, flat out abuse, right? I think we're on the same page with that. And real quick, if any of you watching this are going through that, please know there is help that you can get out there. Go to the National Domestic Violence Hotline. I'm gonna make sure the number gets thrown on the screen so you can call them and get assistance, all right? Do not think this is okay, but I understand there are many women in those positions who struggle to walk away. I don't want you to feel shame. I don't want you to beat yourself up, but I want to encourage you to take a step in the right direction of trying to seek some assistance, okay? But outside of that, you, again, because there's varying perceptions of what is disrespect, it may sound crazy to think that you have to talk to someone about it, but again, you don't know what they're accustomed to and what they think is normal. Once it's been discussed and you've established, I don't appreciate this kind of behavior. This behavior to me is disrespectful or something that and it's not even about whether it's disrespectful or not. You don't like it. I think sometimes there's these arguments that happen amongst couples or people who are dating because they're trying to make the offense fit into the label that they want to put on it. So it's almost like you're trying to tell this man, well, this is disrespectful to me. And he's like, well, I don't see that as disrespect. I'm not trying to disrespect you. Okay, let's remove the disrespect label. At the end of the day, you don't like it. Call it what you want, disrespect or whatever. You don't like it. And if he continues it, it's going to continue to have a negative impact on you and the relationship. So you have to convey that to him like, listen, this is not acceptable. Now, if he is willing to correct it, again, because he may just have had a misunderstanding. But if he does not, you can't let it continue to happen and then just complain about why this man acts this way. He acts this way because you are tolerating it, all right? One, because he's an unhealthy man, because he's a toxic man who has issues he needs to address, but he will take out his toxicness on you because you allow it, because you remain there. And it is up to you to say, enough is enough, I'm walking away. What I want you all to understand is you cannot, and that's kind of the underlying premise of this video is you cannot wait for people to do right by you. You can't say, okay, well, why can't he just get it together and think if I stay long enough that he'll finally magically get it together? No, you have to establish what is acceptable and what is not. And if he does not meet those standards after you have properly addressed them, it's done. It's done. There's nothing to talk about after that. Now, real quick, one thing I want to throw in there before I move on to the next point that is hitting my spirit, one of those moments. And so it's the whole social media thing, all right? The whole liking pictures and all that and commenting on people's posts and all that. Listen, I'm not here to discuss or argue what should be acceptable or not. I'm simply here to say that I've seen this become a point of, a lot of tension has been created in a lot of relationships because of this, all right? And again, I can tell you that, listen, my position, it's not worth it to wreak havoc in my relationship because I want to like a picture. So to me, if it's bothering my woman to like, I'm not going to like nobody's picture. That's me. But There are people who would argue it's not a big deal. Why, people are insecure, they have a problem with it. Again, I'm not here to, in this video, we're not going to discuss that deeper. What I am going to say is you need to establish in your relationship what is proper social media etiquette for you. All right? As early as possible. Okay? Have a talk about it, because in today's world, it's probably going to come up somewhere, somehow. If you don't have a discussion about it, it may be one day you're online, you're on your man's profile or the guy you're dating's profile, and you see a like or a comment, and now you feel some kind of way. But y'all never had to talk about this. And because this is such normal behavior for so many people, when I mean normal behavior, the action of liking or commenting, there are many people who really believe it's not a big deal. So talk about these things so that it doesn't become this huge issue later that just gets super messy, all right? Nip it in the bud as quickly as possible. All right, so let's move things along. So here's another thing that if a man does, you need to stop dating him, is dismissing your feelings. So we talked about it earlier as far as, in communication, you have to make sure you don't dismiss his feelings. And if he did it to you, it would piss you off. Well, here's the reality. And I think this one, I don't like saying this is a little complicated, but I think to a certain extent, it's a little trickier. Here's why. One, I want to make clear, a man, for you to have a healthy relationship, he cannot be dismissing your feelings. It can't work that way. That cannot be tolerated. That cannot be accepted, because that's going to create a lot of resentment in you. And again, a lot of women, I would say this is a very common one, where women will have this happen to them constantly, but still stay with the man. They'll complain about it. They're unhappy about it, but they seem to just, in a way, sweep it under the rug, but it's festering in them. And it manifests into all kinds of different issues and negative energy in the relationship. But here's the thing that I've learned. A lot of men struggle with understanding how to be more respectful, compassionate, in tune, understanding of a woman's feelings if it doesn't make sense to them logically. Okay? So there's one couple who comes to mind that I was coaching one time, and they were having their issues, and the woman was saying, it's so hard talking to him. He's so rough with her, the way he talks to her, the way he handles her when they're having discussions, and he can be very dismissive. So I would talk to him, and I remember saying to him, like, listen, man, you need to have more compassion. And he was like, compassion? What you mean by compassion? He didn't even understand how that concept applied in his relationship, in relationships in general, all right? And I had to break down for him, because to him it's like, well, if what she's saying doesn't make sense, why do you want me to try to I'm losing the words to use here, but to try to accommodate or be more understanding in that situation? It's like, but you can't just dismiss her, because that's going to make her feel some kind of way. And the minute people feel dismissed, it can cause many to now get defensive or retaliate. All right. So it only sets up more problems anyway. But the point I'm trying to make is that for some men, it is foreign to them to understand how to be more considerate and try to, again, reach a place of understanding with you in those moments where your feelings doesn't make logical sense to them. So I'm not saying this to give the man a pass. I'm saying this to say, okay, this goes back to learning how to address things and expressing to him, like, listen, this makes me feel some kind of way. This is a problem for me. And if we're going to have a better relationship, if we're both going to be able to be right for each other, I need us to work on this in this area. I need you to be more understanding when I'm expressing to you how I feel. And on your end, what may help is when you realize that men need, you gotta be more, you gotta simplify sometimes what you're saying to a guy. And a perfect example of that is Like I always say, if you set up a dating profile, I encourage women, don't have some long paragraphs in your bio, all right? Men ain't trying to read all that, all right? It's too much. It feels too complicated. It's overwhelming. And that's how some men feel when they talk to you in person. Like, oh my gosh, this is too much. I can't deal with it. And I always encourage that, listen, on the dating profile, bullet points. Nice and easy, quick, to the point, let's do that. You know what I'm saying? Now, how we can apply that in relationships, I understand as a woman, sometimes you may want to vent and you need to get stuff out and you're not trying to worry about how you structure it so he can understand. You just need to let things out. All right, so maybe you establish with your partner when you need to vent so he understands, okay, this is a venting session right now. Let me just let her emotionally dump things out, get things off her chest, whatever. But then when it's something that you need him to understand or you need his input and things of that nature, you need him to grasp it. This is where now you implement a more simplified method to what you're trying to express. A more to the point, more succinct, that's the wrong word, but more specific, or I said the word wrong, more specific, detailed, not overly detailed, but just, again, being very on point, locked into what you're saying, that will help in those situations. But all that to say, dismissing of feelings should not be accepted, should not be tolerated, because again, that only leads to more problems later. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. So there's a quote that I say, and it goes, if your absence isn't enough to motivate him, your presence never will. So essentially, if losing you, if you walk